Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Just to introduce myself, my name is Bobby Ruff. I'm the inside linebackers coach here at the Citadel down in Charleston, South Carolina. I had the opportunity to play college football at Charleston Southern University, where I played outside linebacker there and was a captain my senior year. Got to play under some pretty cool coaches, like Coach Chadwell, who was at Coastal Carolina, under Coach Staggs, who's the defensive coordinator up there. And the guy who talked at 9 o'clock, Coach Foster, he was the corners coach my senior year. So it's been pretty cool to kind of see this thing go full circle a little bit. And now I'm up here kind of, being able to talk about inside linebacker play, which has been pretty cool. Just to kind of give a little preference, I'm 24 years old, been out of college for 3 years now, had the opportunity to come to the Citadel as a GA. Coach Thompson took a chance on me, hired me as a GA, worked on the defensive side of the ball under Coach Blake Harrell, who's the defense coordinator at ECU, and Joel Taylor, who is the defense coordinator at Mercer. So got to work with some pretty cool guys. Last year we got promoted to tackles and tight ends coach. Was a spitfire of a challenge, being able to come in as playing defense my entire life and learn a triple option offense. I had no idea what to do, how I was supposed to do it, but worked with some really good guys, and now I'm finally back at the linebacker position in my third year here. So we're going to get started. First off, when you really start to think about a mentality, what does your room want to look like? What do you want your linebackers to be about? I tell my guys every day, you have to have a mentality to play linebacker. And I told my guys this is what linebacker is not a position. It's a mindset, it's a mentality, it's a way of life, right? You get to look at people and say, I played linebacker, and they automatically think you're a badass, right? Because you're not going to have, a quarterback playing linebacker because they just don't have that mentality. They don't have that killer, I'm coming downhill, I'm going to come hit you each and every play. I'm going to be the most tough, physical, and nasty player on this team. So right here, kind of what I showed my guys every meeting that we start with this slide right here. And it says a Citadel linebacker will. A Citadel linebacker is going to relentlessly swarm to the ball and knock the living crap out of the ball carrier. You get all 11 guys to the ball each and every play, good things are going to happen. I told my guys this, and I'm going to keep repeating that phrase because this is just like a position meeting for me. What's going to happen if you don't run to the ball? Bad things will happen. You never know when it's going to be your time to make a play. You never know if that ball is going to spit out. So we're going to relentlessly swarm to the ball each and every play. We're always going to have a team-first mentality. I think as linebackers, you have to be the most selfless people on the team. You're the leaders. You have to be selfless. You have to have a team-first mentality. The next, you're going to have to give outstanding effort in everything he does because effort wins. Being at a military school, it's tough. 18-year-old kids, it's tough to get an 18-year-old kid to want to come to a military school for 4 years when they've got other options. So you recruit a kid out of high school with these things, with a team-first mentality where you're going to give outstanding effort on the field, right? I don't want to put a guy playing Mike linebacker who doesn't possess these kind of qualities. I don't want to put a guy on there who doesn't give outstanding effort in the classroom with his family and everything he does that's going to correlate onto the football. The next is you're always going to have positive body language because winners know how to control their body language because they're mentally tough. Playing a linebacker and being an inside linebacker, you have to be the most mentally tough player on the field, and that's what I demand out of my guys. Is I don't want to see you slapping the ground when you miss a tackle. I don't want to see that. I want to see you hop back up, you go chase the ball, and always show positive body language because it is the most attractive thing to your other teammates, and it's contagious. And then finally, we're going to be the most disciplined, physical, and tough people on the field, and that's what we come to practice every day with. We're going to practice good habits. We're going to practice how to be disciplined, physical, and tough every single day, so it's going to translate into the game. All these things, man, and I'm not going to sit up here and say that I'm going to reinvent the wheel or I'm going to show you this great way to get off blocks and great way to tackle. I'm just going to do and show you guys kind of what's impacted me as a player and just be able to show you through a coaching standpoint of how it affected an 18-year-old kid at Charleston Southern. So right here, we're going to get into block destruction a little bit. And before I start, we're going to have block destruction, 3 different types. We're going to go into tackling and how we like to tackle, how we like to teach tackling, because I'm pretty sure one of our special teams coordinator, Turner West, is on here. And that's one thing we talk about a lot, is that tackling and block destruction isn't talked about enough. And that's, as an inside linebackers coach or an outside linebackers coach or a defensive line coach or safety coach, whatever you may be in this call, getting off blocks and going to make tackles is what's going to keep you a job, and it's what's going to get you to get your players to be the best they can possibly be. And that's my take on it. So right here, you're going to see the first thing to getting off blocks, you have to be in a mental state that no one is going to be able to block you. Before you take a first step, if you have that mentality that the person coming to block me is not going to block me, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get off that block, that is how you're going to defeat the block. Worrying about getting off the block first before you do anything. And that's probably said, tons and tons of times throughout practice. Hey, you got to get off the block first. If you're worried about making the tackle 5 yards in the backfield, but you haven't even gotten off a block at the second level yet, you're going to miss that tackle. You're not even going to have an opportunity to make the tackle. And that's the thing that we try to get these guys to understand is you have to see what's in front of you, get off that block, and then go make the tackle. And that's why block destruction is so important. We try to teach 3 different ways really to get off a block. The first off is the old shock and shed method. And that's usually where you're going to be engaged with someone already. So if a linebacker is, comboing up to the second level, and you've got a backside linebacker who is trying to scrape over top of the ball, and he's got a guy in his way. Well, now if he's already engaged in you, well, now the word shock is the most important thing up until this point, right? You have to shock the lead blocker or the offensive lineman, whoever may come in to block you. You want him to be able to have his body thrown back. You hit him so hard with violence. And then use the momentum of when he tries to get his balance back and come and get you, you use the momentum where you're still engaged and you shed, violently rip down, and you clear your arm. That's what I don't think is talked enough about either, is you have to clear your arm whenever you're getting off blocks. You have to clear the block. Get off the block, disengage, and then go make the tackle. The next up is my favorite, and our special teams coordinator, Turner West, he was with the Dallas Cowboys, and I've got had the opportunity to meet him past year and a half or so, and I really got to pick his brain because he worked with the linebackers with the Cowboys, and so I kind of got this from him. But the quick punches is probably the most realistic way to get off a block nowadays. It's where you typically use when you're approaching a blocker and you're not really engaging them yet. So say just same principle, right? You got an offensive lineman comboing up to a play side linebacker or backside linebacker, whatever you have. And he hasn't engaged with you yet, and you've got an angle to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. A quick punch is really you're having your hands out in front of you, you're playing with lean, and you're punching, getting over the top. It's not really a rip. It's not a clear. It's literally punching him, playing with a lot of forward lean, playing with your leverage to be able to get over top of the blocker. The one thing that I tell my guys as well is you have to think about this from a length standpoint, right? And I'm going to show you some clips after this that's really going to be able to show you a little bit better than I'm telling you right now. But playing with lean while getting off blocks will at least gain 3, 4, 5 inches of your arm length. And I'm not talking wingspan when I talk arm length. I'm talking about when you hold your hand straight out in front, that is what your arm length is. So by you playing with lean, now you are gaining at least 3 to 4 to 5 inches of your arm length to be able to get over top of the lead blocker, if that makes sense. And then the next one, the last one we'll go over today is the long arm. It's typically used when you're getting off blockers, when you have leverage on a blocker and you need to maintain your leverage on the ball carrier and the lead blocker to get downhill to beat a block and make a play. Long arm's usually going to be, like it says in the description, you're going to have that blocker leveraged. You're going to come downhill. You're going to have your arm straight, just like the quick punch, but you're going to punch the outside pad with your inside arm, keeping leverage that you already have from the lead blocker to go downhill and make a play. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about that as well. Okay. Now we're up to the next one, and selfishly, this is probably my favorite thing to talk about, and it's not talked enough about, is tackling. Defensively, this is the most important thing, right? Your job to play defense is to get the ball on the ground. Scheme is going to work itself out. You're going to have good coaches. Our defense coordinator scheme is fantastic. He's a brilliant mind. I'm not as smart as he is, and I've not been around the game as much as he has, and I'm learning from him. But what I like to do is I like to tell our players every meeting and say, hey, we're going to get the scheme down. You know, we're going to get the X's and the O's. We're going to do all these things. But I'm going to make you a better tackler. I'm going to make you a better block destructor. I'm going to make you better at these fundamentals, because if you are a fundamentally sound machine, you're going to run a whole lot better than if you're just really just good at the X's and O's. It's got to start from the bottom. Got to start from the bottom and have a foundation. This is our foundation right here. So really the first key to being a great tackler is to have a mindset. Again, I go back to that word mindset because it's playing inside linebacker is a mindset. You have to have the mindset that if I don't make the tackle, then it's a touchdown while still doing my job. I actually got that quote from my father, Brian Ruff, who is he was an All-American at the Citadel. He played in the NFL. He was the first jersey retired there. Not to brag about him, but he told me this when I was growing up, and I kind of stuck to that mentality through my playing days as well. If I don't make the tackle, well, I have to have that mindset that no one else is going to do it, right? But I still have to do my job. And this is probably one of the things that I get heated about the most is missed tackles is a byproduct of laziness, because lazy people don't miss tackles. I have the opportunity to coach an All-American linebacker this year who has kind of come out of his shell more recently, been a little bit more vocal about what he wants to do and how he wants to get better. And I told him, I said, man, you have gotten so much better from your sophomore year to now because you focused on fundamentals. And Coach Harrell was the linebackers coach, and he harped on fundamentals. He was one of the most detailed person about fundamentals there is. And then Ben Hodges, who was the linebackers coach last year, who's the offense coordinator at Murray State, he was the same way. You know, I've got to pick his brain a little bit about block destruction. He said, they don't get off blocks. They don't tackle well. So what are we going to do to make them tackle? So that's just kind of what I picked his brain about as well. People who miss tackles are trying to find the easy way out instead of doing what they're coached to do. And when I say that is, and it goes back to being lazy, is when you just run your feet and you do what you're supposed to do and you don't stop your feet and try to take the easy way out of making the tackle, you're going to make the tackle. You're going to do what you're coached to do. And so there's two different ways really that we teach form tackle. And this is going to be, and just like I said at the start of this thing, I'm not the type of person who is going to, get up here and teach you this new way to tackle, because, I'm a young kid in this profession, and I'm just trying to show you guys what's worked in the places that I've been in the Citadel where I'm at now. And so the head across the body here, we believe at the Citadel that there's probably two different ways you're going to have to tackle someone, and there's two different instances really. Growing up, I was always taught, you need to get your head across the bow, your head across the body, you need to secure it. Your head is the one that secures the tackle, which that is very true. But I also think there's a way to there's a certain time to do it. And the time that we've really seen just looking at film is that it's within the tackle box is when you're really going to end up doing this. When it's a downhill, say you've got power, you've got counter, or you've got some kind of inside the box run where you're going to have someone spill the ball to you, and you're going to have to get your head across the bow and drive for 5. And so there's different instances of when you can use these things. Now you got the hawk roll tackle or profile tackle or near foot, near hip, or whatever you may be calling it at your high school or college, wherever you guys may be. But the hawk roll is obviously was conducted and made at Citadel with Coach Carroll. And this type of tackle usually happens outside of the tackle box when you're tracking the near foot, near hip of the ball carrier. And what I tell my guys is you got to have your eyes on the near hip. I don't care what he's doing from the waist up. Doesn't matter to me. I want you to have your eyes exactly on that hip and you stare at him. I want you to tell me which way his hips are moving at all times. Because if you're looking at your head at the ball carrier and he makes a little fake and his hips are going to stay the same, right? You need to run your feet. Never stop moving your feet. That is what missed tackles. Once you leave your feet or stop moving your feet, you are going to miss a tackle, right? And that is the easiest thing to say, but for some reason it's one of the hardest things to coach, in my opinion. And then wrap up through the hamstrings and drive for 5. I originally put, the days of wrapping up cloth and wrapping up high and running your feet, that's great and all, but when you start to look at it from a body standpoint, if I'm a linebacker and I'm going to tackle a ball carrier and I wrap his hamstrings and squeeze and drive, there's no way he's going to be able to move his feet. So there's no way he's going to gain yardage on me, right? So the days of hitting people and wrapping up cloth and driving your feet, well, he's still moving his feet. And if he's a better athlete than me and he's stronger than I am, then he's going to win. But if I'm less of an athlete and I'm not as strong, but I'm squeezing his legs and driving, he's not going to be able to move his feet. He can't gain yards, right? And that's where I kind of get to the point where we don't have to make the game harder than it already is, right? It's a game. It is a game of realizing what you've got to teach kids and how to teach it the easiest, right? And so moving on here, this is a drill that we did. I got this from Coach West. This is the quick punch. And so what you're going to have is you're going to have 2 guys lined up right in front of each other right here. Okay, so you're going to have a linebacker here, all right, and then you're going to have a blocker here and then a ball carrier behind you. Okay, so starting off, I'm going to blow a whistle. All right, that whistle is going to tell the blocker and the linebacker to go. All right, what we're going to teach here is block destruction into a tackle, right? Because I know for you guys, indie periods probably get cut short in the season. Well, this is a good drill, and this is a good way to be able to say, I'm going to get block destruction and tackling in a 5-minute segment instead of just doing 5 minutes of block destruction and 5 minutes of tackling. So it's trying to be the most efficient with the time that you're given, right? So if you look at the top here, this is a walk-on. This is one of the walk-ons. He's from First Baptist in Charleston, South Carolina. He probably does it the best. My All-American linebacker, Willie Eubanks, doesn't do it very well. And so that's where you kind of see, hey, it's a mentality. Not saying Willie doesn't have the mentality to do it, but he's got to really refine these types of things. So you see Jackson playing. You see right here, you see him playing with so much lean on his body, right? He's got some short arms. They're not very long, right? So by him playing with this type of lean, he has added so much more length to his arms to go get off a block and make a tackle, right? And the hardest part about this drill is getting your scout team to be able to run fast. Number 2 and number 43 over here, you got to tell them, hey, I want you to run and I want you to get to the outside pad of the linebacker, and I need you to do it in a hurry, okay? And then you also need the ball carriers in the backfield to be going fast, right? And that's simple things you got to teach. But right here, this is a really good job of having a quick punch, right? He's defeated the block. You see how his body is all the way back and his is forward, right? That is a winner. He has won that drill. He has defeated the block, right? Now I have to do what I'm coached to do to be able to go and make the tackle, all right? So now I wrap, and I don't really like them when they jump, but they decide to do it here. But you see where his arms go. Right, he's probably getting a little out leveraged here, but his arms squeeze around the hamstrings. See if I can pause it this spot. Right there. They're squeezing around the hamstrings, and they're driving for 5. All right, I just want to see him finish with a little bit better of a leverage there. Okay, so now you got up here. This is Willie Eubanks. This is the linebacker I was telling you guys about, right? he's not bad at it, but he's also not getting a great look. But he's playing with lean as well. Coach, you got a question here?
Yeah, there's two here, Coach. Is there specific footwork in the quick punch?
Yes, that's a great question. And it gets kind of ambiguous when you talk about it too, because people saying, I had the opportunity to talk with Joel Taylor, who's at Mercer, a couple weeks ago, kind of about this, and it's always been said you want to take steps downhill, right? You want to take downhill steps. You always want to be moving downhill. You want to take a good read step, right? Well, when you start to think about it, well, if you don't really know where you're going, obviously you got to pop your feet, but it's okay to move laterally. It's okay to do that. As long as you're not going backwards, that's all I care about. So when you talk about the footwork into going into the quick punch, it's almost, I shouldn't even say almost, it is the same footwork as trying to make a tackle. Because you're trying to defeat the blocker. You see it right here, you're going to try and keep your feet back. You're going to try and play with lean, and you just want to keep moving your feet to the outside of the lead blocker to be able to go make the play, if that answers your question.
And there's one more here, Coach. It was asked if you could talk about the hands on the punch, so like thumbs up, hip square, et cetera.
Yeah. So and I'm not real too particular about it. Whichever way you feel comfortable teaching it is really how I would answer that question. I like to teach it where I'm able to where am I going to be able to get the most length, right? Am I going to be able to get the most length with my thumbs down, my thumbs up, whatever it is, right? I want to be able to get the most length out of it. So for me personally, I try to teach it where I'm going to be coming a little bit outside with my thumbs just like this. So almost you're making like a U, right? Because let's just say he's got longer arms than I am and he grabs onto me. Well, now I'm able to extend and twist up to be able to go and get off the block. That answers your question, right? So going to move on here. Do one last little tidbit. Let me find this clip. Here's another one. Okay, so same kid as earlier that I was telling you about up top here. All right, so he's playing with a lot of really good lean. He's punching. His feet almost come off the ground, and they should. If he has a lot of power built up through his butt that he is going to be extending through, his feet may come off the ground, which in my opinion is fine, because you're going to be able to give everything you've got into this dude to be able to get off this block. All right, so you're going to see, I'm going to play it all the way through. It's a good look. And you see in how the blocker, his chest is blown back, right? Now, go down, make the tackle, okay? So now I'm going to go over the shock shed here. I've only got a couple clips of this. But this is the one-man sled, in my opinion, is a good way to be able to work on shocking. You don't really get a good rip, and that's what I learned is, putting a jersey on or even using the lev sled, the five-man sled is a little better thing. But with time constrictions, you kind of want to go into block destruction on the one man and then go into tackling the one man. And so right here, we've got one of my Mike linebackers here, really working on shocking and extending, right? The one thing I like that he does at the end of this clip is he clears it, right? He shocks, he's extended. I want to see him play with a little bit more lean, but the one thing he does really well, you see that arm come up, he clears it, and now he's able to say, I've defeated the block, I'm going to go make the tackle, okay? Right here we've got Willie Eubanks again, same thing. All right, I don't like how high he is. And I want to see him drop his butt a little bit more and try to get underneath the sled, obviously, because you're not going to – if you're going against a football player who is about 5'4", you got to get a little lower, or you just got to be a better athlete. But right here, I want to over-exaggerate him getting as low as he can and using his hands in good punch. But he also does the same thing. He gets off the block, he shoves it aside, and then he rips up to clear the block. And so that's what we work on. You can work this in individual drills. You can work this in your pre-practice. Whatever time you have, I think that these are good things that be able to say, hey, I got to work on a punch. I got to work on getting off a block. I got to work on an angle tackle or what. So now we've talked about kind of what we do from a drill standpoint. And I got this from Coach Harrell, the defense coordinator at ECU. I texted him. I said, Coach, give me a little bit of drills that you can help me with my guys, and he told me something. He was like, make your drill work look like football. And when he said that, I'm like, that's exactly right. If your drill work doesn't look like football, well, you're not really practicing football, right? I mean, it sounds so elementary, but that's the reality of it, is you need to practice football because that's how you get better at it. And so right here we played Georgia Tech. This is the third game of the season. It was a real exciting game. Ended up beating them in the last minute on a field goal. So right here, all right, so you've got Willie Eubanks. Okay, so this is going to teach you right here how to track the ball and how to, and when it's running to an outside perimeter run or even, right at the tackle, this is going to teach you how to track the ball and run through, okay? So right here we've got Willie. He's tracking the ball. All right, he's trying to sift through all the traffic there, and then he finally goes and pulls the trigger. But what you'll see that Willie does a good job of is watch his feet. His feet never stop, and they're always in the ground running through the ball carrier, right? His feet never stop. I'll play this a couple more times. Running through, feet never stop. That's a good play. All right, so right here, you got it again, okay? So Willie's reading the posts right here. He's coming up, he's coming outside, he sees it now. Now it's just tracking the ball. Same thing, track the ball. His head's behind, it's a profile tackle, all right? But he's running through. All right, I want to see him get a little lower, but hey, that's a tackle for loss in my mind. All right, so now I showed you two good plays. Showed you two good plays of how running your feet, doing what you're coached to do is a positive thing, and it's gonna show you that when you do things that you're coached to do, good things are gonna happen, right? So now, okay, so we've got Willie again. Okay, so now watch what he does. Right here, I'm gonna play it all the way through. Watch him shuffle his feet, right? Right here, you have a wide open window and a ball carrier running right through here. I tell our guys, and our defense coordinator tells his guys, and our defensive line coach, it preaches on it. Coach Ward preaches on it. He says, just take the shot, slow them down, right? Even if you miss and you're going full speed and you take the shot at the ball carrier, you're at least going to slow them down. And if we're doing our jobs as coaches by getting our players to run all 11 hats of the ball, we're going to swarm the ball carrier. We're going to get them on the ground, okay? But this is a byproduct of being lazy. This is a byproduct of not doing what you're coached to do, shuffling your feet, and then leaving your feet and lunging, right? You saw the two before. He didn't do that. If he does the same exact thing that he did on those last two plays, he makes this tackle in the backfield. It's third down. We're off the field, right? We're celebrating. But now he takes a bad angle. He shuffles his feet, doesn't take a shot, and see what happens? It goes from being maybe a tackle for loss to a first down and more. Okay, so now we've got another one. So we've got Willie again. Okay, so same thing. Showed you two good ones. Well, now I got to show you two bad ones because I got to show you what happens. So now he's tracking the ball well. He's running. He's tracking the hip. Okay, this is what happens when you duck your head and you leave your feet. You want to put your hips to his hip. You want to run through the ball carrier and get him on the ground. Again, I showed you last time, right? It was third down. It was third down. We had a shot at a tackle for loss or even a no gain. Well, Willie misses a tackle and he goes and he shoots for 10, 11 yards, right? Same instance here. So he didn't do what he was coached to do. He wasn't trying to be the best tackler he can be and didn't have the mentality at this play to be able to say, hey, I got to get this guy on the ground. Well, this is what happens when you miss tackles, right? That's what happens when you miss tackles. Missed tackles go into first downs and touchdowns. And that'll lose you a ball game. So for me as an inside linebackers coach, the most important thing I'm going to teach is getting off blocks and going and making tackles. And I know I keep saying that, but that is the ultimate progression of how you're going to be the best linebacker possible. Okay. So now we've got Aaron Reed here, our will linebacker, our money linebacker. And this is a good play. Okay, so he's got the offensive lineman coming up. This is where I was talking about the combo block, right? Here you go, Coach. You got one?
Yes, sir. I was just asked, what are the reads for the two middle backers?
Good question. Good question. So I talked with Coach Taylor about this a while ago as well. We want to read through the guard to the back. And I tell my guys this sometimes too, is with offensive line, they're going to tell you where the ball is going to go. You know, the backfield is always going to lie to you. Think about triple option, right? Say that you've got at the middle of a play or the middle of the snap, you could have 4 guys going a different way. Well, the offensive line is going to tell you where it's going to go, right? So we want to read through the guard to the near back. And there's different keys that we have when we get into kind of game plan and things where if you've got a team that runs into 20 personnel, well, now we're going to cross key a little bit. We can switch it up, but our base read is really through the guard to the back. And the way that we do things in our defense, the rules can change continuously. But that's your question. We'll just say through the guard to the back. So right here, we've got Aaron Reed. He's got a combo block. So now I want to see Aaron get a little bit lower, but he defeats the block, right? You see the little bit of, I'm going to push off, I'm going to clear as best as I can, and then I'm going to go and stuff the ball carrier. That's a pretty good job by him. You know, he came from Southern Illinois where he played outside linebacker, and we threw him in at Mike, and he did a heck of a job for us. But this is exactly what you're looking for. Obviously, you want to see it to be critical. I'm going to go from this angle if we can see it a little bit better. Just so you've got him right here. Yes, sir.
Coach, you was just asked, how do you teach that aggressive mentality in your linebackers, or do you feel like it's just something somebody has?
I think it's both. I think you have to get to a point where you have to find an identity in your room. You got to find who the guys are in your room, what makes them tick. I can't coach a kid who's going to pop off, and if I'm screaming and yell at him and he just shuts down. Or I've got a kid that if I scream and yell at him and I'm in his butt and he's going to motivate him and it's going to get him to be a better player. I think it's tough to be able to say, do you have it or not? Because I've seen guys that I've played with come in that weren't very, mentally tough and weren't very physical and aggressive. By the time they were done playing, they were some of the meanest dudes on the team. But I think for me as a coach is trying to instill a mentality of toughness, discipline, and physicality. But and those are obviously buzzwords that everybody likes to use. But in my opinion, if you're constantly preaching these things and you're constantly engraving it into your kid's head that you have to be mentally tough, you have to be a physical football player, you have got to be disciplined, or you're not going to play for me. So what do you want to do? Do you want to be a college football player? Do you want to be able to say I played at the Citadel in the Southern Conference and have a chance to win a championship? Or are you not going to do the things I'm telling you to do because you won't play? So for me, and the way that I try to do things is I'm going to tell my kids, if you want to play football at the Citadel and specifically play inside linebacker, you're going to either have to have these things or you're going to have to develop. And you have a choice to be able to do that. Okay, and so right here, like I said, we've got Aaron Reed. Makes a really good play here, defeating the block, getting off the block, going to make plays, stuffing them. All right, so that's awesome. So that's kind of the stuff that we're looking for. All right, so right here, this is the last clip I'm going to show you guys. But I'm hard on Willie. He's an All-American. He's our Mike linebacker. He's the captain of our defense. He's the captain of our team. But with those types of kids, you can't let them off the hook. You can always get better. And me, being, a 24-year-old inside linebackers coach at a D1 school, and you've got Willie Eubanks, who's 3 years younger than I am. It's a hard job for me to say, hey, Willie, you were a better football player than I was at the rival college right down the road. But I'm going to make you better. I'm going to make you a better football player because I'm going to be hard on you. Because and you can look at it, the age thing being closely, related to your players. Say some of you coaches maybe, a couple years out of college coaching high school football are in the same position I am coaching college football. Well, I think that the younger you are, I think it is a very positive thing because you can be able to relate to your players and you kind of know what makes them tick because you were the same way. So right here, Willie trying to give you the background of this play. This is Charleston Southern. This is my alma mater. This is a school where they're 5 minutes down the road, or 20 minutes down the road, sorry. This is a tight game. If they go down and score this, it's a 2-point game. And so Willie makes a fantastic play here. And this is where you kind of see, this is what, if I ever have to talk about, linebacker toughness and a mentality again, this is going to be the clip I show at the end every single time, because this is what's going to show you, this is what a Citadel linebacker has to be. It's a tough, resilient. If I don't make the tackle, no one will make the tackle. It's a touchdown. And this is exactly a testament to how Willie has, and this is before I'm even his coach, but this is how he's been raised, and this is how you have to play linebacker. So you got it right there. There's Willie. The ball's on the 1-yard line, okay? Scooping across, makes contact right on the 1-yard line, right? Now watch what he does. He runs his feet, and he denies him from getting into the end zone. That is the definition of being a tough, physical, nasty player at the linebacker position. That's all I've got for you guys film-wise. If you have any questions, I love to answer them.
Here's a question, Coach. How you're teaching tackling now differ than when you played?
It's very similar. Coach Staggs at Coastal Carolina was my defense coordinator. Pretty much that entire staff was my staff in college that I got to play under. But it's very similar. I think we adopted the hawk roll tackle my sophomore year of camp, and it's been very cool to kind of see how it's developed and what's kind of changed as the game has gone on. It hasn't really changed much. I think the one thing that's changed is really the old, you wrapping up cloth and you driving. Well, that's great. But when you try to see how to be the most efficient, you kind of realize, well, if I take somebody's legs out and I'm driving and they can't move their legs, I'm going to win, right? So it hasn't really changed as much as except for just in that aspect.
Is there a shed you'd like them to use for each given block, or is it the linebacker's preference?
I always say it's your preference, and I know this sounds kind of silly, but it's the realest thing that you can say to a kid is, however you're going to get off the block and however you feel comfortable with that block, you do it and you perfect it, right? Because if I try to teach you a block where you're not comfortable at and you can't be effective with it, well, then I'm not going to teach you that. I'm not going to spend my time or your time trying to be able to develop something where you're not feeling comfortable with. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to spend any time at all, but going back to your question where you're saying, is it my choice or is the player's choice? It's 100% the player's choice. However he has to get off the block, he's got to do it.
Coaches wrote in, coaching at a triple option school, how do you mix in spread into the group and team periods? And how much triple do you go against versus spread in the spring and August?
Yeah, that's tough. So I'm sure, at your school, you have your scout periods, or you have, say in your fall camp in August, you have you're going against pretty much your offense. So it's good on good the entire day. Well, when you go to a triple option school, you're having to draw cards even in August. You're having to draw cards. You're having to have scout team players, or you're having to take your defensive players, your threes and your fours, and you're going to have to run a scout team with them. That's probably the hardest part about, you don't get to see a lot of spread being in a triple option offense. That's just kind of the realization of it. You have to kind of be innovative. You have to be creative. You've got to use, your threes and your fours, and then you've got to use your ones and your twos when your threes and your fours are up. So that's kind of how we do it, and it's been effective for us.
Coach, can you just discuss again how much you spend each practice on block destruction and tackling?
Yeah, so our defensive coordinator probably gives us anywhere between, at most, he'll probably give us about 15 minutes of indie time. But the first 5 minutes after stretch, we will have either a turnover circuit, a tackling circuit, or a pursuit drill. So we try to rotate those every single day. So I get probably 10 minutes a day with Indy. But then you also get Coach Thompson gives us a 10-minute special teams pre-practice to be able to say, hey, you guys work. If you're not on special teams, you're not coaching a special team. Well, if your guys aren't on it, well, then you can come with you and you can kind of get a little jump start. And it's usually with helmets off. It's not full paced, but we get some good work in. We work footwork. We kind of work, already being engaged and working on the shock, working on explosion and working on the shed. It doesn't have to be, a bang, bang drill, right as you get out of class coming onto the football field. We kind of just slowly but surely get them into the practice through pre-practice, then get into stretch and Indy.
Are there any particular techniques you teach when you're blitzing?
Yeah. So our defense, we blitz a lot. And we do a lot of blitz on cans. We do a lot of 10 can. For me and for what we try to teach is blitz the most efficient way you can, right? Usually starts with we work a lot on disguising stuff. Work a lot on not tipping your hat, not showing the blitz, being able to say you got to be able to time it up. So it all comes down to also the athlete. You're not going to put a bad athlete or a slow athlete off the edge. You're going to put a decent size speed guy off the edge or a bigger guy who's a little bit quicker on the inside pressures, but putting people in the right spot and then teaching them timing. Teach them not to false step, teach them not to tip their hat. That's kind of the stuff that we work on more than anything is if you can just time it up the right way, you cannot tip your hat. You cannot show where the pressure is coming from. And also we do a lot of bluff blitzing. Do a lot of, showing one side, come another, just like I'm sure a lot of you guys do, but really timing up things more than just, how to blitz. Because you just want to put an athlete who can blitz to do it.
I think let me see. There was a question here. In your opinion, what's been the most challenging aspect of coaching at a school like the Citadel?
The hardest thing, in my opinion, and for me personally, that I've had to really adapt is your kids are on lockdown. You always know where your kids are at. They're in the barracks, they're in the mess hall, they're working out, or they're in a meeting room, right? So you always know where they're at. And you're always able to have access to them, which sometimes, these kids, they don't want to be around us the entire time. But for me too, is being able to, the most difficult thing in my opinion, just for me personally, is being able to demand a lot from my players, being with how young I am. Being a 24-year-old kid coming in as a GA, and then 2 years later you're coaching an All-American and coaching inside linebackers. For me, it's intimidating. But with them being at a military school, I think this is the perfect place for a young coach, just because you have the ability to be able to be around your players more. You have the ability to really build that relationship and kind of be able to say, you cultivate your room around the principles of the Citadel, right? Honor, duty, and respect, right? That's the way we're going to live our lives. We're going to live our lives as linebackers. We're going to honor, we're going to be a teammate. We're going to honor our teammates. We're going to honor the people that we play for. We're going to do our duty on the field, which is practice and everything that we just talked about. And then respect. We're going to respect everybody we play against, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability.
Oh, that's awesome. Does anybody else have any other questions for Coach? And Coach, while they're doing that, would you mind just sharing your contact information, whether it's your Twitter or email? If anybody has any follow-up questions for you or just wants to chop it up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. My email is bobruff12, BOBRUFF 12 at gmail.com. And my Twitter handle, what is it? I know this real quick. My Twitter handle is at BOBRUFF_.
Got a couple Citadel grads in the chat right now.
There you go.
Pretty cool. Yeah, if there's any other questions, man, drop them in there. If not, obviously Coach just shared his contact information. So, definitely, especially, we talk about all the time, during this time when we do have more time on our hands, it's a perfect opportunity to connect with the coach and talk some ball and, really use that to your advantage. But, Coach, I really appreciate you jumping on with us this afternoon, man, giving us a great presentation and helping us get better, man. Really appreciate that.
Coach, I appreciate it. And for all you guys, I know Coach Thompson, if you guys have the chance to meet him, you guys know that we're an open book. We usually have, with all this stuff going on, we usually have, guys at spring practice and whatnot. But with the COVID going on and it's changed up a little bit. But if you guys ever need anything, feel free to reach out to me. I love to reach out to you guys and kind of pick y'all's brain about what to do and how to do it, man. So I hope you guys are staying safe. And Coach, thank you for what you're doing for us, man. This has been cool to kind of see where this profession is being able to go through certain times like this. And I think we're going to come out with the better end of it.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, man, Charleston's a beautiful place. So it's worth the visit for sure. And the campus is beautiful as well. Coach, another question just came in. What do you teach young linebackers about stance and read steps?
Yeah. So with the stance, there's 100 ways to skin a cat, right? There's 100 ways to get into a football stance. There's 100 ways to teach what kind of stance you want your linebacker to be in. And I always go back to, you got to teach a stance to a kid that makes them feel comfortable. If I've got a kid who's stiff in the hips, well, I can't tell him to, drop his butt all the way to the ground and be able to do all these things. Well, you got to kind of be innovative with how you teach these things. For me, for the base way that we try to teach it, we try to teach it shoulder width apart. We're going to keep about 65 to 70% of our weight on our toes. We almost want to be falling forward a little bit. We do this because we want to play with, and again, I go back to that mentality. We want to be able to say from the start of the play, we're going to play all game with our chin over our toes, being able to say, I'm going to be better than you. I'm going to be physical. I'm going to be faster, and I'm going to kick your butt. So you're going to see a linebacker that's going to be full forward lean, getting ready to roll.
Absolutely. Coach, any other coaches with any questions? Appreciate you getting that late question in, Coach.
Absolutely. No problem, man.
I think we're solid, man. We'll wrap this one up. Just want to thank Coach Ruff again for jumping on. And once again, guys, obviously Coach shared his contact information. So if you guys have any follow-up questions, or like I said, if you want to just talk some ball, and we learn from each other, that's for sure. Definitely reach out. And, once again, thank you all, right, for coming in and not only, just supporting the platform in itself, but, supporting all these great coaches who take the time out to come and present. So thank you to all you guys. Like Coach said, just to reiterate, man, y'all stay safe out there, and we'll be back at it at 3 o'clock. So we'll see you guys then. Coach, once again, man, appreciate you.
Yes, sir, Coach. Thank you.